But the way that it happened was I was super depressed. And as I found, at least I can only speak to the guy I'm seeing, but it's like anytime I would talk about my emotions or anything I was struggling with and felt bad about, we wouldn't talk about the feelings, or it would just go to like, you need to be on a medication.
Right.
It was kind of like, if you're feeling really, expressing the depth of the depression, or I'm suicidal and this, it would always go to the second I open up about what I'm really feeling, it's like, okay, you need to be on medication. Like, you
Right.
need to take something.
Yeah.
So, and I remember feeling like I wanted to be a good patient because I was trying to play I had been so stubborn, and people said you're stubborn and you don't want help, you won't let anyone help you, and I feel like it was really this collective bullying, like family and friends and the psychiatrist. Oh, sorry, what did you say?
Oh, you're being pressured, essentially.
Yeah, and it's like, and it seems to be a virtually universal experience with almost everyone I've talked to, where it's like there is a ton of pressure, a lot of pressure, to. And it's like a lot of gaslighting. It's like, no, I don't want to take this stuff out of self-protection. It's like, that's a healthy mechanism for me to have, and everybody's telling you, no, you don't want, so it started with that, was you don't want help, you don't want to get better, and then I decided I almost feel like it's a trauma response, this fawning. I'm like, okay, I'll go along with what they're saying, and I took it to another level of not even looking up the drug. He's like, okay, and I remember telling him, okay, I'm going to trust what you're saying. I guess you've worked with a lot of people, like, people that have been struggling with this, so I'm just going to not. It was fawning. It was fawning, because in my mind, like, I didn't fucking like that he was doing this, and I was actually pissed off at him, but it was just something in me was like, again, this, like, submitting to an authority figure.
Sure.
And okay, well, they're the professional. They know what they're doing. I'm just going to, like, considering maybe I do have obsessive compulsive disorder. Maybe me going on Google and reading about this stuff is what's causing my you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm just going to let him do it. Give me the pill. I did not do anything. I did not look up a single thing on Google. I didn't look at anything at all. He gave me this sample pack. I saw the name Rexulti, but I made a point of not looking it up. I said, I'm going to do a blind, like, just take it and see what happens.
Having said that, man, yeah, you want to jump into your story and just kind of talk about what happened to you? I mean, talk about what your life was like before you got injured and talk about the medication you took. You want to, yeah, just jump into it?
Yeah, sure. And I did write a couple notes down, just like a little bullet points, so I don't forget.
Yeah, I did.
There are some real pivotal things. So, yeah, the first thing I put down for that. So my life before, and this echoes this same for a lot of people I've gotten close to in the community. So two things. It was like, I would say, very deeply emotional and hypersensitive, and I was like hypersexual. It was just like they were like this. Like my whole life, and I was very isolated. I think part of the reason I got into the whole psychiatric, revolving door system was because of, like, I was ostracized a lot, bullied from a young age, and like I withdrew into like video games and then porn instead of. I really wanted to be in a relationship and I just couldn't do it. I was so off the wall.
Yeah.
But it all went with being very, like, so you combine like being super emotional, like hypersexual, and wanting connection with people, but then also not having any communication skills and just really like maladaptive, so it's kind of like I feel like I was actually pretty normal in the sense of most people want to connect, and I just had a lot of failures with that. But yeah, I'm going to try not to go on too much of a tangent, but like one of my best friends, from the PSSD community, she would talk a lot about, like, she wish that she could just have her emotions back, like she could just have the ability to feel. And I did get, I think, a lot of my ability for that back. I'll get into that later, but I remember her saying that she said, oh, I wouldn't even hesitate. She's like, if I had to cut my own legs off with a hacksaw to get my emotions back, she goes, I wouldn't even think twice about it. And she repeatedly told me this, like we were talking, it's been over, I haven't heard from her now in a few months, but that was like over a year. We'd be on the phone, on WhatsApp, all this talking, and it was just very, very, So it's funny to talk about my history with that because it seemed so horrible at the time, and it was. Like, I'm not going to invalidate. It's like I wanted to die, you know. I mean, I was like, I made a bunch of like half-assed, suicide attempts, and like I really was in so much pain over this isolation and loneliness. So it was such a. I never in a million years could have imagined this side of things, where like you could think that that's a good thing to be able to feel those things. Like, and you talk to people like, I wish I could go back and want to kill myself over being lonely because they're so, and I will say that the main way I can relate to the complete anhedonia and emotional blunting, I still don't know if it's on a spectrum. I know some people believe it's like you either have it or you don't. I kind of think it could exist because stuff has changed for me, emotionally, and I noticed a very clear change. But, the withdrawal after the drug was, I got kind of catapulted into what I think is complete anhedonia and emotional blunting, and this, all I could feel was this sense of doom and dread and like depersonalization. Right. I never felt anything like that before. It was like a Black Mirror episode, and I mean, I feel very fortunate that I kind of snapped out of it one day. I don't think I fully got out of it, but it was like, I remember waking up like 2 months after cold turkeying that drug I was on, and I just felt like myself again. Yeah. It was like, the sexual function never came back, but like,
that's incredible.
So I tried. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, that's incredible, man. Yeah, you just woke up and it was abrupt.
Yeah, and it was. I remember, and that's why I don't know if it was. I don't know anything about protracted withdrawal or whatever. Like, I was on Rexulti, which has a very long half-life, and I was on that for, I don't know, it was probably at the latest was like late August or early September. I think it was probably around August in 2019.
Yeah.
And then I remember stopping at cold turkey in around December 20th of 2019, and that was when I went from, I was having a lot of symptoms, like I was just so tired, like it went from like helping me think better to like I was just totally fatigued and I couldn't do anything. I just couldn't function at all. And that, and when I pieced together the sexual dysfunction, like I did some Googling on the mode of action, and that opened a whole can of worms. It was like, but anyway,
real quick.
So trying to tie it. Huh? Sorry?
I don't mean to cut you off, just out of curiosity. Were you taking that for depression?
Oh, yeah. So the reason I was taking it was, long story short, my girlfriend broke up with me in 2018. We had been together for a few years, and I spent like a year in like presumably major depression. I never got a diagnosis, but I had to look up, you know what I mean? Sometimes these psychiatrists don't want to tell you what they think you have. They'll just give you something, and so I was kind of at wit's end, if only I had known what wit's end was. It's like I would give anything to go back to like that year that I was just drinking constantly. I was like, I was so depressed. I was going to bed at like 6 o'clock in the morning, getting out at like 3, 4, and it's like everything was so, it was like obsessive compulsive, like on my ex, and it was like a whole year had gone by and I hadn't gotten any better at all. I was just thinking about her constantly. I couldn't stop. I didn't want to date anyone else. I didn't,
Right.
And that was the thing too, that, again, if I could go back, one of my friends from a group I was in that committed suicide, my memory is so shot. I think it was, I can't even remember. It's like, I think it was this year, some months ago. But she had we connected over that similar story. She had been broken up with and was suicidal, and that's when she kind of got, she went, and she was one of the worst cases I ever heard of, and she was so, like, she was going like weeks without sleeping. She had like all these like GI problems. She'd be like, oh, I'm only going to the bathroom like once every 7 to like 10 days or something. Like she was a total, and according to one of my friends that had talked to her on the phone a bunch of times, she couldn't even put a sentence together. She said she could hardly even stand up. She would be like slurring her words and stuttering, and then, I think it was a few months ago, she ended up killing herself, and I actually, weirdly, is like, I tried to help get her into the Pegasus clinic. Like, I wrote to them, because she said it was so bad, her family was on board with it, that they said they knew that it was so bad, she could not survive this, and she was deeply, and they were on board with, hey, if we can, legally go take her out to Switzerland, for, that's how crazy this stuff is. It's like, but she really related about that with the wishing you could go back. You know what I mean? Being suicidal over a breakup and being,
dude, I can relate so much to you on that. And just real quick, was she a PSSD patient?
Now, in what capacity? So, I mean, she was. I mean, she was in this group I was in for PSSD.
Take an SSRI or something along those lines, or an antipsychotic?
Yeah. Yep. I think I might have written down what it was. So I can't recall by memory, but yeah, she was on multiple like polydrugged. It was like I think an SSRI as well as antipsychotics and benzodiazepines were actually one of the things that she could not get out of because her psychiatrist put her on those, and then it just became this shit show where she couldn't get off. She couldn't even sleep barely with it. But then when she stopped taking it, her symptoms would get even worse.
It just spirals at that point.
Yeah, one of the things for me is like it's primarily the sexual dysfunction, and I got to know some people very well, like super well. I think of her as one of my best friends. I've known for over a year. And I didn't know, like I had kind of forgotten about the withdrawal I went through, where everything was just gone. It was like the emotions gone. I couldn't enjoy anything. And way beyond that, too, just that constant sense of dread and doom.
Yeah.
Like it was like my soul was ripped out, So, and, talking to her, I did want to validate people because I didn't know. I was coming into I would occasionally post on the subreddit for PSSD, but I never connected with anyone on there. And I do want to validate, again, not to invalidate my own experiences, but it's kind of like when I woke up and kind of felt like myself again, and I had some of that stuff come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's 100%. Like even from talking to her, I've wondered, because one of the first things that happened when I took Rexulti was I didn't feel in love with my ex anymore. Like the heartbreak went away because I just didn't feel anything. And and I discussed with her, she said a lot of people might think that these drugs are working by, well, no, they're blunting your emotions. It's not that it fixed anything, and if anything, your emotions are, So before I go off topic with that, I do want to validate, again, not to invalidate myself or anyone else that has primarily sexual symptoms, but one of the ways that I've been able to keep going is I feel extremely grateful. My life was ruined significantly, but I had my friend tell me so many times, she was like, I don't want to offend you or anything. She's like, I would give anything. She was like, I would go without sexuality for the rest of my life if I could just have my any emotions back at all.
Yeah.
So I do want to validate that because that really hit home, and I was like, man, and that reminded me of the withdrawal. And I said, if that's what you people are living with, that state, that was this hellscape that was unlike anything I had ever experienced in my life, and it was only a couple months, and it was I just couldn't, and I'm like, so people that have been stuck there for years, even with having half of your emotions online or little flits of things, I do try to remind myself to be very appreciative of that, which it's tough because I don't talk to anybody with PSSD anymore. I kind of lost. I haven't heard from my friend in a few months, and I kind of fell out with not fell out in a bad way. I just kind of, I had a couple people I really connected with deeply, and one of them committed suicide, and then the other one I don't know,
Yeah.
So.
No, I get it, man, and it's so crazy when the sexual symptoms are the least of your concerns. You talk to people who are like, I would give away all my sexuality just to get everything else back. That shows you how bad this suffering can be, obviously, and it does exist on a spectrum. Some people just have sexual dysfunction. Other people have sexual dysfunction, emotional blunting, GI issues, sleep issues, cognitive dysfunction. I mean, it's just insane. The various symptoms that people can experience and the degree of those symptoms too, So real quick, just going back to your story here. So you went through a breakup, you decided to take this medication. What was the medication again?
Rexulti.
Rexulti. Is that an SSRI?
So it is an atypical antipsychotic, but
Okay.
it's actually kind of like the parent drug. It's a successor to Abilify.
Okay.
So Otsuka Pharmaceutical makes it. It's very similar.
Yeah.
So it's not an SSRI, but the interesting thing with it that's really unique is it has actually one of its main modes of action is on the 5-HT1A serotonin receptor.
Okay.
So that's the primary mode of action. It's like dopamine D2, which it actually agonizes dopamine D2, and then it is a 5-HT1A, I think, antagonist.
Okay.
I forget if it's an agonist or it might actually be an agonist, but either way, it's I always call, and I don't know anybody else that got it from Rexulti. I heard some people with Abilify injections.
Okay.
you know. And I have heard the thing too, which, by the way, in my past, like I was actually on Lexapro, I think the first year it came out, like 2002 or so. Like they put me on medication from the time I was maybe 13 or so, 13, 14. Yeah. And I started out on like it started out on Lexapro, which, you know, and this is also, you know, because I think of like my, you know, sexual dysfunction after Rexulti as the main thing, but I will never know what I was on, like Lexapro, Buspar, and Zyprexa when I was like 13 or 14 to around maybe 18 years old or so. And so I will never know, because that's where a lot of these problems started. But yeah, the Lexapro was where the suicidal stuff, and I'll never know, like, how much of my communication difficulties and other things, I'll never know. Like, when you're developing, you know, going through puberty, and I'm on, like, I think, you know, like, Lexapro, Zyprexa, Buspar I never felt much from, but it's still, like, those are pretty heavy-duty medications.
They are. And you don't really connect the dots until after you come off and start thinking about these symptoms that you're currently experiencing at this point. So you were dealing with, I guess, the suicidal ideation and potentially other things that you're not certain about while you were taking Lexapro, but it was after you took this last medication that you became emotionally blunted. Is that correct? Yeah,
and that was a major, and I still don't know, because I mean, I'm trying to remember, like, I still have emotions, you know, stuff will come up, and like, I don't know if there's, again, a spectrum of blunting, you know, like, and again, one of the main things I want to emphasize is to validate how absolutely horrible it is for anybody. You know, it's like you've lost your emotions. That is the worst. And my friend told me repeatedly, she's like, I could have no sexuality and be in a wheelchair. She's like, if I just had my emotions back, she's like, that would give me the, you know, even my friend that committed suicide told me if she could just enjoy eating food again, that would have been enough of a reason for her to live. Wow. Just that alone. She's like, if I could just enjoy eating again. Because I've talked to so many people, you know, like the classic thing, like there's no difference, like whether you're in sunlight or rain or clouds, or you're inside or you're outside, or you're taking a hot shower or a cold shower, it's like everything is the same. They just said it's like you're watching paint dry no matter what. So I do want to validate that I think that is the absolute, like, one of the only ways I've been able to cope is like thinking of my friend and being like, no matter how bad I feel, you know, feeling fortunate that I can feel bad. It's like, it's so, and part of the reason it's tough to, like, only people like you would understand, you know, and this is why I want to validate you. And then like my friend, it would be like, no, I don't take any offense. When she'd be like, oh, no offense, but like, I wish I could trade places with her. I'm like, no, I get it completely. It's just, it shows you how far away this is from normal human experience. Like, anybody watching this that isn't living with this, they literally cannot relate, you know. And it's kind of like, I feel like this primarily sexual PSSD, you're already super far removed from normal people, and it's kind of like, I look at it as kind of being that in between, like, you can't really relate to normal people anymore, but then also I have to respect that the people that have this permanent full blunting, you know what I mean? It's like, that's why I've always tried to be empathetic and validate, because nobody does.
I never liked the term PSSD, because that doesn't encompass the entire spectrum of what can happen to people. I mean, that just talks about the sexual dysfunction. And when people think about that, it sounds bad, but they think, well, you can still move on with life if you have sexual dysfunction. But they don't talk about the severe emotional blunting and everything else that goes along with this, obviously. So, no, I appreciate it, man. You're obviously very aware of your case versus other people's experience. So, yeah, I do appreciate that. Just real quick, going back to your story, how did you get prescribed the medication that you did take that ended up ultimately blunting you? Did you go through a general practitioner? Did you get it online?
So I was a psychiatrist, you know, one I've had for many years, and this is part of my issue with the system. I'm still seeing the same guy, you know, and it's like, and I think a part of it is, you know, with getting health insurance, for example, you know, and if you're in like Social Security, you have to be either on medication or in therapy or something, like, you know what I mean? Right. It's like, so the way the society's set up, it's almost like a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme. It's like you have to, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, well, you need health insurance, but if you're not mentally able to basically be independent and have a career, like I still live with my parents, and I'm going to be 36 years old this year. And, you know, and by the way, like with but yeah, that was it. And it was a sample pack, actually. I remember. And wow. I had been off of medication for a number of years. Like, I swore them off at probably 18 or 19. I got readmitted involuntarily committed to the psych ward again when I was 20. That was the second time I'd been in. First time was in 2007 when I was 15.
Yeah.
And, which, by the way, it's weird. I've had all these, like, things coming up, like I'm feeling super fucked up lately, and it's May 24th, right? And I remember it was May 27th in 2005, actually, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I got admitted to the psych ward
Okay.
the first time. And that was like, it's just a lot of bad memories with, being in the system and then just being painfully aware of how broken this is, where, anyway, this does dovetail into why I took the medication and how I got on it, because I was seeing the same guy. I feel like it was almost being bullied into it. Like, he flat out told me, he's like, well, if you don't want to go on medication, then you don't want help. Like, you don't want to get better. And I did express explicit concern, because I remember I got a prescription for Seroquel after I stopped the Zyprexa and the Lexapro, and I didn't take it. There was something in my brain at the time where I found I did a little reading about antipsychotics.
Yeah.
I didn't know about PSSD, but I was reading about tardive dyskinesia and this other stuff, and I said, screw this, I'm not doing that anymore. And I remember I basically, when I found out Seroquel was an antipsychotic, I got really pissed off. I was like, I told him I didn't want to do that, and it was like I felt like he was trying to, slip one over on me, And so I didn't take it, but anyway, the Rexulti I was 29 years old at the time. This is back in 2019.
Yeah.
So I think I had been off of all medications for like 9 years, and with some intermittent things I was pressured into taking, like Strattera and guanfacine and some, stuff for like ADHD or whatever. Like, and I had negative reactions to all of them.
Right.
Nothing permanent, but it was like stuff that I had taken that I just didn't, So it was kind of this, the pressure to take the Rexulti. And here's the real pisser of it, and I will never get over this, or forgive myself for it, because how did I have the fortitude of mind to just be like, I'm not taking these heavy-duty pills anymore? Now I won't take any of them. I kicked the Xanax, and it would occasionally take propranolol and this other stuff. I just kicked everything.
Yeah.
But the way that it happened was I was super depressed, and as I found, at least I can only speak to the guy I'm seeing, but it's like anytime I would talk about my emotions or anything I was struggling with and felt bad about, we wouldn't talk about the feelings, or it would just go to like, you need to be on a medication.
Right.
It was kind of like, if you're feeling really, expressing the depth of the depression, or I'm suicidal and this, it would always go to, the second I open up about what I'm really feeling, it's like, okay, you need to be on medication. Like, you need to take something. Yeah. So, and I remember feeling like I wanted to be a good patient, because I was trying to play I had been so stubborn, and people said, you're stubborn and you don't want help, you won't let anyone help you, and I feel like it was really this collective bullying, like family and friends and the psychiatrist. Oh, sorry, what did you say?
Oh, you're being pressured, essentially.
Yeah, and it's like, and it seems to be a virtually universal experience with almost everyone I've talked to, where it's like there is a ton of pressure, a lot of pressure, and it's like a lot of gaslighting. It's like, no, I don't want to take this stuff out of self-protection. It's like, that's a healthy mechanism for me to have, and everybody's telling you, no, you don't want, so it started with that, was you don't want help, you don't want to get better, and then I decided I almost feel like it's a trauma response, this fawning. I'm like, okay, I'll go along with what they're saying, and I took it to another level of not even looking up the drug. He's like, okay, and I remember telling him, okay, I'm going to trust what you're saying. I guess you've worked with a lot of people, like, people that have been struggling with this, so I'm just going to not... It was fawning. It was fawning, because in my mind, like, I didn't fucking like that he was doing this, and I was actually pissed off at him, but it was just something in me was like, again, this, like, submitting to an authority figure.
Sure.
And okay, well, they're the professional, they know what they're doing, I'm just going to, like... Considering maybe I do have obsessive compulsive disorder, maybe me going on Google and reading about this stuff is what's causing my you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm just going to let him do it. Give me the pill. I did not do anything. I did not look up a single thing on Google. I didn't look at anything at all. He gave me the sample pack. I saw the name Rexulti, but I made a point of not looking it up. I said, I'm going to do a blind, like, just take it and see what happens. And it had some, or I thought were positive effects. I'm like, wow, I'm focusing better. I'm able to think more clearly, and I didn't connect the dots, and this is where I heard about the medication spellbinding, right? Like, I didn't know that was a thing where, you could be having side effects that are very obviously attributed to the medication because they started immediately upon taking it or very adjacent to it, and you don't connect the dots. You think it's something else. You know, so like you think it might be
spellbinding, you said?
Yeah, medication spellbinding.
That's really interesting. I wonder from the context of people who take finasteride, if they're all dealing, not all, but if people are dealing with these side effects without realizing the effects are from the medication. They just want to attribute it to everything else. You got sexual dysfunction, you got brain fog. Everyone always says, well, that could be a result of anything, right? It could be your diet. It could be the circumstances in your life. They want to avoid the fact that it's probably the medication that's causing this, right? They want to attribute it to anything else. So I never heard that term before, but that's interesting.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't either until I joined that WhatsApp group, medication spellbinding. And another thing, too, that I didn't know about, this girl, in one of the groups I'm in from Greece, she mentioned this thing called a drug monograph.
Okay.
I didn't know. Nobody, talk about, like, safety information and, like, they have to legally publish that. So if you look up a monograph, it's basically an objective, like, the outcomes of a trial, like, positive, really a lot of adverse effects.
Okay.
They'll look at some of the positive things, but I think they publish those to have, like, a comprehensive, like, this is all the stuff that went wrong. And
right.
Nobody tells you about that. So, but,
Wow.
yeah, and the medication spellbinding, I think and I only learned that term probably within the last year, but the other side of that is this collective, like, friends that I have that don't know anything about this stuff, I've told at least a couple friends I have explicitly about this, and like they don't mean to. I'm not going to say they're gaslighting me because they're just ignorant to the facts.
Sure. Right.
But they seriously, their first thought is to think that I'm being a hypochondriac. It's like, he's like, oh, come on, what are the odds of that? It's not your synapses getting fried in your brain. To me, it's like, it's what else would it be? I said, we're going to say we're taking a drug that directly impacts the wiring in your brain. Like, of course, that would be the first thing I would suspect.
Is so insane, man. I mean, the fact that you're taking, in my case, finasteride, this hormone-disrupting drug, which can affect neurosteroids and all these other downstream hormones or chemicals in your body, why would you not think that could cause some type of serious adverse reaction? And same thing with the medication that you took. I mean, it's a mind-altering drug, essentially. So it's really crazy to me that so many people go down the path of trying to, not, like you said, intentionally gaslight you, but at the end of the day, they're gaslighting you.
Yes.
I can't believe people avoid what's right in front of them so often.
Yep. Oh, and again, like with finasteride, I'd found a couple things on YouTube, like people talking about, I can't remember their names, but it was like a couple people that were like bodybuilders, and they want to take it for like hair loss or something, and, talk about the total destruction, and of their entire bodies. And like part of the thing is, I had some tests done recently, very comprehensive, hormone panel and all kinds of other stuff. And it was like, sure, my pregnenolone came back. It's like below the reference range. My testosterone's like at the very bottom of the reference range. It's almost in the red. And it's like, and I've had, and again, I've been through a bunch of other stuff, so I'll never know what happened. It's like now I've had this thing where it's like my left testicle is shrunken. It's like half the size of the other one. It's just been, I've had like pain and it's shrinking. But anyway, with the Rexulti, you look up the side effects, because it's not only, right, like if you think in your brain, this is the command center for everything, like your pituitary gland tells what organs to make what hormones,
Sure.
And because you have to wonder, like as far as drug monographs go, I looked up the one for Rexulti, and I would bet it would be on many other drugs as well. They said specifically, like this is like verbatim, the mechanisms by which Rexulti works are unknown. Period. What more do you need to know than it's like they don't even know.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's left to, just like people have been left to fund PSSD research on their own.
Right.
We've been left to do our own research. Like I even had a study. This was from 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And just as an example of side effects that aren't listed, right? The title, and keep in mind, so aripiprazole is the generic name for Abilify.
Okay.
And then brexpiprazole is what I was on, which is Rexulti, which is like, it's very similar, same company, Otsuka Pharmaceutical. I just think of like Rexulti's like the granddad of Abilify, right? It's like, so the name of this article, this is 2016, says spontaneous ejaculations associated with aripiprazole. So And it's the first line of the study said sexual side effects are common with antipsychotic use. Spontaneous ejaculations without sexual arousal have been previously described with several typical and atypical antipsychotics. Well, nobody ever told me that.
Yeah.
And
right.
It's like, I looked this up, and it's like, well, if it's common, because you don't find on Rexulti, the side effects on the black box warning label, I had heard it, and for whatever, reason, I was willing to, like, whatever, the tardive dyskinesia, because I thought the risk was low, which I don't think it is, and I know some people say it's a matter of time. You stay on them long enough, you're going to get. But anyway, right. The black box warning label didn't mention a single thing. It mentioned actually compulsive behavior, including like compulsive sexual behavior. And here I was thinking, well, I'm already like hypersexual, so I'm not worried about, because one of the main things I got from the Rexulti very, very early on, like I think probably within the first week of taking it. So, my girlfriend had broken up with me, but it was a complicated thing where we were still hooking up. That was part of why I wasn't moving past it. It could be like, what, and it was like the emotional disconnect, but we'd still hook up. And but what I started noticing was I get on the Rexulti and we go to have sex, and it's like I ejaculated within about 3 seconds of penetration.
Sure.
And I was like, well, that's weird, And then it kept happening. And I don't mean like an intermittent. It was like literally from the first time that happened, it became physically impossible for me to do anything. For like literally, like it was even a challenge to even be able to penetrate at all. Like I would just any amount of contact, and then it got so bad to the point where it's like a number of times I ejaculated without any stimulation at all. Yeah. And the other side of that is I had to. You never hear about this with male sexual dysfunction. It's called rapid detumescence, right? So it's basically you think of like from the point of ejaculation, and I actually looked this up in a study. The time where your erection goes down after orgasm. On the low end of the bell curve, what I found was after orgasm, it was about 18 seconds. And then for some men, it was like a number of minutes. Premature ejaculation as well. I think it's so critical to mention the other aspect of it is that rapid detumescence. Because it's like my orgasms became blunted, not from genital numbness, but this very rapid loss of erection upon starting to ejaculate. It's like I used to feel like, let's say it lasted like 10 seconds or something, huge wave of pleasure that would continue, and it would take a while for my erection to go down. Now it's like it'll be a very short burst of like, I would almost say like now, like my orgasms are maybe like 10% as pleasurable as they used to be. Like there's something there, but it's gone so rapidly, and I would say on average, like the amount of pleasure I get that's like 10% of what I used to feel, and it only lasts for maybe like 1 to like 1.5 seconds, and then it just goes. And the other thing I noticed too was I have like I have pretty bad ED problems now, which I didn't have in the beginning. Now it's like it's almost like complete erectile dysfunction. But when I could get it up, like that's the other thing. I did have genital numbness when I got it up again. She was like, "Oh, we can try." People always have the joke about, "Oh, well, if you come too early, you could just try again. Go for a round 2." Well, somehow I managed to get an erection again, and that was when I was like, "This is awful," because I was like in that refractory period, and I've had one friend with hers like classic like full blown PSSD, like SSRI. She has like visual snow, complete loss of emotions. And she describes it to people, like normal people. She said like it's almost like being stuck in a permanent refractory period where everything's just shut down and blunted, and you have no libido, and everything's just kind of grayed out, and you're just stuck there permanently. Because what happened with my ex that one time, and like I said, we used to go for a round 2 all the time, and it would feel almost as good. This time, I was able to get an erection again, but it was completely numb. I couldn't. It was like somebody put lidocaine, like it did a lidocaine injection, or so I couldn't feel anything, and it was so surreal. And I'll never forget that experience. And I've talked to a number of people that are in relationships with PSSD, and they mention it's like almost worse having a partner, because they said they're faced with their impairment and not being able to feel anything, and like going through the motions of having sex. And that was my experience that time with my ex, where it was like, we're going through the motions, and I'm like, I don't feel anything. I'm like, this is like a nightmare. It was just awful,
Just to clarify, so this was after you received the sample pack of this medication, and
yes.
You're dealing with all these sexual issues. So did you just going back to that? Did you just take the sample pack and that was it? You never actually got a prescription for the medication?
No, I did get I started on the sample and then I got a prescription for it, and they titrated it up over time. So it was like I got the sample, and I didn't connect the dots to the sexual dysfunction. This is the crazy.
Once you took the sample, that's when you were dealing with the sexual dysfunction. You just didn't realize it at the time.
Yep. As far as now again, this is as far as I remember. It's possible that I went from the sample to the prescription. This is all within a period of at the latest, it was like late August of 2019 is when I was on the prescription.
Okay.
So, and it was titrated up. Like I remember it was like I felt cognitive benefits initially, and I was like, okay, it seemed to be I'm like actually functioning better now. So they kept titrating it up. So I got a prescription, and then it was like every week they would give me a higher dose and a higher dose until I got, I think, close to the highest dose you can be on.
So how long did you take it for then before you finally came off, and why did you decide to come off at that point? Did you connect the dots?
I connected. Now here's the crazy thing, right? Because I had a notebook where I was writing down. I had like a goals journal. Me and my friend would meet up and write goals down, and I was starting and it was great. And the crazy thing is, I was writing down premature ejaculation as if it was a totally separate. I didn't even think that it was connected, because I was still on this crusade to kind of prove, I'm being a good patient. I'm not. It was almost like a blind thing where nobody can accuse me of being a hypochondriac because I didn't even Google this drug.
Right.
I don't even know what it is. But then eventually I did Google it. And so I was on it for a minimum of, let's say, like August to December 20th, like early, either mid to something around August 2019 to December 20th of 2019 is when I stopped. So it's like I started on the sample and then I was on a prescription for a number of months before I quit. And
pretty sure you would then, though. I mean, you didn't take it for that long. Maybe, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So why did you decide to quit? Did you connect the dots before you quit? You're like, maybe I'm dealing with all these issues as a result of this medication, so I should hop off?
So I connected the dots when I did end up going on Google, and I looked up what the drug was and what it acted on. And then it was very, the way I research stuff is like I look up the drug, I find the main mode of action, and then I'm like, okay, well, it just occurred to me maybe the sexual dysfunction has something to do with this. So I Google 5-HT1A ejaculation, D2, dopamine D2 ejaculation, and I was just like, oh my God. I was like, these are like two of the most critical pathways in the brain associated with orgasm and ejaculation. I was like, right. So to me, that's when I was like, oh my God, I don't realize how I missed it for that long. Mm-hmm. And then I found that study about like spontaneous ejaculations associated. I said, okay, so this is a thing that's happened.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a thing that has happened. And I'm like, to me, it was just immediately, it was like, oh my God. And I was hoping that getting off of it would stop the problems I was having. And my psychiatrist had actually told me that in the beginning before I went on it. I expressly said I had like really intense fears that I'm going to take a medication and it's going to permanently alter my brain. And he was like, he's like, no, that's not, no. He's like, you don't like the way, he's like, that's not going to happen. He goes, you don't like the way it makes you feel. You just stop taking it.
Tell you, dude, they tell you the same thing with every other medication. I mean, whether it's finasteride or SSRIs or an antipsychotic, if you just come off, all the symptoms you experience will dissipate and you'll be fine. Your body will eventually rebalance itself and you'll be good to go. So you came off the medication. What's the story from there? Did things get worse? They obviously persisted. Did they get better initially? Can you kind of give me a rundown on that?
Yeah, so, and this is very, get off the medication in 2019. I remember 2020... because actually in 2019 there was a girl that I went to this music festival, and so the problems I had when I was on the medication, they didn't get any better. Because I remember, like, again, being hypersexual, and I was very isolated. I would have jumped on the chance to hook up with some girl. Like, I was so, like, really feeling needy for, any kind of intimacy. Sure. So what really got me was the sexual dysfunction turned me away from that, because I already knew him. Like, I can't perform. And I remember I was really flirting with this girl at this music festival, and it went well. And she was getting pretty physical with me, and like, but I kind of shut down because I'm like, I know I can't perform or something's gonna, you know what I mean? So that persisted after. So to get back to answer that question of what happened after I quit. So 2020, I got into a long distance fling because, it's safer than, you know what I mean? It's easier to like text somebody something, it's like, and I did tell her all the problems I was having, you know, and ironically, I had known this girl we hadn't talked in a while, but it was an old friend from like 15 fucking 20 years ago or something, you know. So anyway, you know, we're sexting a bit and stuff like that, and I would notice, that's when I started really becoming more aware of that rapid detumescence thing, because I was like, man, this just like doesn't feel good. I'm like having an orgasm and it's just fizzling out. I'm like, I can't even enjoy this, like, and it's very frustrating that it's like I go my whole life, you know, like isolated and like deprived of intimacy, and then I start finding opportunities to have it, and now I can't enjoy it at all. You know, so it's like
horrible.
Yeah, and it's like, but that was the trajectory of after I quit. It was, and this is when I found out about PSSD, because now I start Googling stuff, you know, I get off the drug and I start reading about other people's experiences, and, you know, but I don't think I went that deep. Like, I got much deeper into this when I joined this. Somebody invited me from Reddit to the WhatsApp group back in, I think, December. It was like late December of 2023.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of found out. So to me, it was like, okay, I quit December 20th of 2019. Mm-hmm. And, you know, now it's been, how many years is that? I guess is it coming up on 6 years, I guess, or is it over?
Yeah, it'll be about 5 years, I think.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So it'll be, like December 20th of this year will be 6 years, I guess. Right. So yeah, I think my math is off sometimes on that. I'm like, I've had this. Okay. So it will be 6 years, but so the trajectory has been, oh, and I forgot. So the drama with my ex had continued, you know, it's a very complicated relationship, right? And that she ended up leaving 2 years ago. So 2023, but from the time I quit the medication to 2023, I'm still seeing her. Like, we're not together, you know, and it's kind of like she's doing whatever. We're occasionally hooking up. And I tried so many times with her to have sex, and I just couldn't do it. It was kind of like, and to me, this was a great litmus test, because I said, it's not a new person. This is a girl that I was very comfortable with. It's like, yes, the relationship was messed up, but it was just as messed up years before, and I was still able to hook up with her, no problems at all. Right. You know, so it's like nothing really changed. And it was like, you know, that was just awful. The repeated, like literally for 3 years. I'm sure you can relate. I mean, it feels very emasculating. It's like, it's horrible that I used to really feel like, you know, like, almost like a point of pride. Like, part of the bond with my ex is like we had great sexual chemistry, and also feeling like a man. If I could just have that feeling back, even if I can't feel anything, just of like feeling masculine and feeling like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I get that entirely. For me, one of the biggest things with post-SSRI syndrome is the feeling of being emasculated. You know, not even just in the bedroom, just in general. You know, when I'm talking to people, when I'm in social situations, doing presentations at work. But I never realized how connected my libido was to everything else in life. You know, I mean, I was hypersexual, essentially, right? You know, kind of like how you said you were. What I realized was that once my libido left, pretty much my motivation for anything else in life left, which is horrible. And I'm 31 years old. I shouldn't have any type of, you know, arousal or sexual dysfunction issues, but people like us do. It's insane. So I get it. I understand entirely what you're saying.
That's absolutely, and I'm so sorry to hear that, man, too. It's like, you know, yeah, and it's crazy. It's like, you know, it's like I'm going to be 36 this year, and it's like I got this at 29, and I was like, it felt like my life just ended at 29. I'm like, this is not, and people I've talked to as well, same thing over and over again. Like my friend that committed suicide, it was like hypersexual, and along with the hypersexuality went this, like, you know, like you said, everything else. And I said also like a very deep and intimate connections, like emotional connections and bonds, you know, it all, you know, and even with all that stuff, like in Taoism, they talk about, you know, it's like it's brain chemistry, you know, when they talk about, oh, you're, you know, they're very aware that like libido is connected to your life force. You know, that's like they diagnose people in like Chinese medicine, right? It's like based on, and I've noticed this for myself that in the past years I've been doing this, like semen retention from 2020, like, because it's like I'm living with a handicap from the drug, and like have never approached where I was before the medication.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I have to go for very long periods without ejaculating just to get back to like 20% of the person I was before. And I've known people personally, you know, that A lot of different people, you know, some with like major histories of like very severe hard drug abuse. I mean, like you name it, they did it. You know, I mean, it would be like methamphetamine, you know, probably I have other people like heroin, cocaine, you know, fucking DMT, LSD. There's people I've talked to like in the PSSD community that have like gotten into a situation with like, you know, I think there are, you know, some drugs you can get blunted from for sure. You know, I've heard of people doing like MDMA and getting, you know,
Sure.
but, you know, that being said, it's like I've known people that were doing massive amounts of like hard drugs and never had anything, and then got on an SSRI, and actually one of them, they were okay for a number of years. And then they stopped taking it, and within 2 weeks, it was like, literally, it's like one of my best friends, you know, she was on Celexa.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was after she stopped taking it, it was literally within 2 weeks of tapering off. She was like severe PSSD right out of the gate, and now it's been over a year. You know, everyone was initially thinking it was just withdrawal from the drug, you're going to be okay, and it's like now it's a year later, and she's gotten, like, snowballed is so much worse, you know?
95% of my symptoms didn't start until after I quit finasteride, which is the crazy part. I didn't have any sexual dysfunction while I was taking finasteride. It was when I came off and my body completely changed. Then I developed Peyronie's disease, low libido, erectile dysfunction. I mean, it's not even withdrawal at this point. I mean, it's some type of biological shift in your body. I did the right thing, like you did. We went through the medical system, you know? We did what we were supposed to do, and we still got severely harmed by these drugs, way worse than we would have been harmed by anything else, any type of illicit drug that you could have gotten off the street. It's just insane, dude. And nobody talks about that.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, and it's crazy because people like me, I mean, I grew up, you know, my parents were very anti-drug, like, don't do that. Like, the first time Yeah. Okay, so you had a similar...
Yeah, I did. I drank when I was in college. Not excessively, but I certainly enjoyed drinking. Never did any hard drugs, never did MDMA or ecstasy or weed or anything like that, man. I was clean cut, man. And what got me was a prescribed pharmaceutical. That's what just blows my mind. That's why I can never forgive what the medical system has done to me. And that's why I continue fighting so hard.
Yep.
Because I did everything right, man. I followed the rules. And I still got screwed over at the end.
Yep.
So.
Oh, and I like to hear that, by the way, too, because one of the things I really want to clarify with that, too, is I 100% agree, because I know a lot of people that beat themselves up. They're like, why did I do this? I'm never going to forgive myself. I said, you're not to, the blame is 100% on the pharmaceutical companies and these doctors. Nobody who's gotten into this, I'm like, it just really gets me so mad, because I'm like, don't, all of that, like, you know, I don't forgive myself. No, you should be pissed at them. They're 100%. You know what I mean?
I said the same thing. I first year and a half, I did blame myself, and I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, these medications are peddled by all these telehealth companies. They're prescribed all the time worldwide. I fell into this trap. I had done my research too. I had researched, you know, finasteride for 6 months before I took it. I did everything I was supposed to do, and that's why I don't know if you've seen some of the comments online from people who like to harass our communities. They say, well, you should have done your research. Why didn't you trust your doctor?
Oh, no, yeah.
Listen, dude, how are you so narrow-minded that you don't blame the system and see the faults within the system and the you know, the doctors themselves? They told us this medication was safe, and even when I was told it was safe, I still did my own independent research, and I didn't read anything about this stuff. Not one single thing, man. I heard some whispers about post-finasteride syndrome, which I was told were persistent sexual side effects, right? But there was no clinical evidence to support that. I didn't hear anything about, because I got loose skin, body changes, facial changes, cognitive dysfunction, Peyronie's disease, joint issues, insomnia. I didn't read anything about that stuff, let alone it being permanent.
Yep.
You know? So, no, I don't blame myself in the least bit. And I think that's a good message that you just put out. I want to actually emphasize that. Don't blame yourself in the least bit, man. We fell into this trap. Nobody should be blaming themselves. The doctors are the ones that should be embarrassed. The medical system as a whole are the ones that should be embarrassed by this, not us.
No, and I'm a very big advocate of I mean, one of my goals, I mean, I don't have my own platform, but I would love to see, and this is the way I would put it, it's like I think it's like be on a crusade to use freedom of speech to literally just destroy them.
That's probably
like I mean, it's like, you know what I mean, and that's the critical thing, because people are going to think you're, you know, violent, militant. I said no. I said use the freedom of speech. I'm like, even like spam posting, I said like drug monographs. It's like the mechanism by which this drug works is not known. Like, make it make sense. I don't have to like yell at people. I'm like, look, the burden of proof is on them. It's kind of like we're not being unreasonable, and that's where, that's what's tough, is because we're very justifiably, a lot of people are very angry, and it's like they can't. Now, interestingly, I can relate a lot to the cognitive dysfunction. I have severe chronic fatigue syndrome. The thing is, I don't know how much. I did start getting that on the Rexulti. Like, I was so tired, I just couldn't do anything anymore. I used to work out all the time.
Right.
I haven't worked out in years now. It's like I can't, it's like I'll even go on a walk and I can get crashed from that. But I don't know how much of that, because I had like COVID, and then I got Lyme disease. So since I came off the drug, the consistent thing was like some of the emotional blunting and the sexual dysfunction. But the fatigue kind of,
I get it, man, and I trust me, my heart goes out to you, and I agree about the approach. We're not being violent here. I've always told everyone we have to take a very professional and systematic approach to address these issues. And I tell everyone, tell your story. That is the number one best thing you can do. And if enough of us did that, we'd be unstoppable. Recently I was looking at how many people we've had speak out on the Moral Medicine YouTube channel. We've had a decent amount. I think we have like 60 to 65 interviews, and that's a combination of PFS sufferers, PSSD, and then post-Accutane syndrome sufferers. If everybody just decided to tell their story and just do a quick video, it can be a 5 to 10 minute interview, or you can make your own video where you can consolidate everything down, do a monologue, talk for 3 to 5 minutes, just give a high level overview, send that to me, I'll post it on the channel. Man, if we got enough of those in, you can't ignore this any longer.
Right. I agree completely. And, another thing, too, it's funny, is one of my best friends is actually going into training to be, he's a psychiatric nurse practitioner or something, and it's really been really tough, because then part of the hesitation, right, with talking about these things, it's like knowing people's biases. Right. And it's like, it's very difficult when you have, again, people working in, like, let's say like a drug rehab center or like a psychiatric facility where and there is some crazy stuff that goes on there, where it's like, and it's very difficult when it's like to tell my friend how damaging these things are. And it's like when you're in a situation like, there's been crazy stuff he's seen happen, right? Where people having like full blown psychotic episodes. And it's like, it's when they're in the system, especially people that see super extreme things. Now, I don't mean like a psychiatrist that's just kind of, they're sitting in an office and someone comes in. It's like, people that are on the floor and dealing with super severe stuff, they're going to just default. They get, it almost reminds me of Unit 731 in Japan. This was a war crime committed, where they were basically torturing people like medically, doing experiments and like all this horrific stuff. Yeah. And it got buried, right? But one of the ways that these doctors were able to perform these nightmarish, things, like live vivisections on people and stuff, and like they called them logs. They referred to humans as logs. And they said, at first they would be bothered by it, like the damage they were causing, like people screaming and in pain, and they just kind of very quickly learned to block it out.
Right.
And it's kind of like, I think a lot of these, like with my friend, he's one of my best friends, and it's like he means well, but he's so burned out from his job, and it's like, fuck it, I'm just going to shoot this person up with a Abilify. I can't deal with this. Like, you've got people like, it's like, shitting in their hands and throwing it at the wall, and he's like, yeah, you're getting a Abilify. They're like, I can't deal with this, and they're, you know what I mean?
I'm with you, Matt. Real quick, man, we do have to hop off here in a few minutes, so let me just ask you real quick, where are you currently at with your symptoms?
So, currently, I like really struggle to function at all. Again, I'm going to be 36 this year. I'm still living with my parents. I work from home. One of the things is like, I'm very good at what I do. Yeah. But I don't have the capacity. Like, I will just fizzle out. It's like, I'll get, a number of jobs in. I do stringed instrument repairs, customizations, and all kinds of that guitar related stuff, right? You'd be surprised how many people are into that, but it's like, yeah. I will get so much work in, and it's like, I will like cap out, I might make like a few $100 in a month, and it's like, I'm like killing myself to get through that. Yeah. So my current symptoms, it's like very severe chronic fatigue, and that's like, so any kind of like mental and physical exertion, even like I went for a walk, it was like not even a half a mile the other day, and I went back, I had to lay down for like 5 hours. I just like couldn't even get up off the floor. And and of course the sexual dysfunction, it's tough. Like, I'm not dating anyone, but it's like, even just talking to a couple different girls locally, and it's just like the spark isn't there. It's like I'll feel maybe a little something or some interest, and then I'm just like, so it's like I'm just trying to take it one day at a time. And then I guess also, as you mentioned with the semen retention, I've gone one time, I went 5 months with doing absolutely nothing, and it was just like, and the second, and it's like that wasn't even functioning great, but it's like I basically have to abstain completely, from orgasm to be able to function like maybe like at 5% of the level of a normal person my age, so I'm grateful for what I have with like being able to still feel some emotions and like there's something, so I try to really as like to honor people that are dealing with the severe, again, because to me, again, the total loss of emotions and the anhedonia, that's a fate far worse than death, so I try to honor that by appreciating what I do have. But so I guess it's just I'm taking it one day at a time, and just but yeah, just like compared to a normal person my age, it's like I'm single, I'm living with my parents, it's like I'm not able to independently support myself, and it's kind of like I don't see that changing. I'd like to, but it's like, because of the position this has put me in, as even it's like being married, which is that's got to be its own nightmare. I've talked to people that were married that said they almost wish they were single because it can be even, again, people like, oh, you're lucky you have a partner. It's like, well, not when it's shoved in your face every single day, the issues that you have, you know what I mean? So,
that's a good point. No, I appreciate that, Matt. Thank you for sharing that. And real quick before we hop off, do you have any closing statements you'd like to tell the audience?
So, I would if you are suffering with PSSD on any spectrum, like whether it's just sexual or you have like emotional blunting, whatever it is, I would even say if you know someone, if anybody has any friends, like even because forming very deep connections with people in the community, a couple people in particular, has really made me want to speak out more, where it's like I could kind of just want to check out of my own life and just kind of just deal with it and forget about it. But I think we all have an obligation to everybody, suffering with this. So it's like if you know someone suffering with it or you yourself are, like, please just do an interview. I think like bare minimum, just sign up, like, and I would say also too, don't be self-conscious. I've talked to so many people that are like their cognitive function is so bad they don't want to be on camera looking like a vegetable and like stuttering and not being able to. So no, please, if anything, that can be more evidence for like, look, you know what I mean?
I can't agree more. I'm getting a bunch of text messages here.
No problem.
No, I can't agree more, man. I've actually said that conveys the point even better when you have a tough time articulating what you're going through. I mean, it shows that you're struggling, and that just it conveys the fact that you're suffering so much. So, no, I'm with you, man. I do appreciate all that. I really do. So, well, Matt, hey, man, really thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, man. Clearly, you're very intelligent. You're very articulate. I appreciate you coming on the channel and sharing all that. So thank you again, and we'll see everyone next time.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.